Hello there. I'm David A. Specht, and I want to be your coach. If there's anything that I have learned in my 30 plus years of leadership and coaching, I have learned that mindset is everything. Join me and my guests as we explore the positives and negatives of that thing between our ears. This is Keep This in Mind. Welcome to Keep This in Mind, brought to you by davidaspecht.com. And of course, I am David A. Specht. And today's show, it's going to be a little bit different, folks, because usually I bring in a guest that I've either heard speak or have crossed paths with in a different way. But my friend Sam here, Sam Gorden, and I met at a conference. And during that conference, we happened to be sitting close to each other, and we just kind of struck up a conversation. Sam is well, you could call him a photographer, you could call him a multimedia specialist, you could call him a drone pilot, but all of those things have come together for Sam, and he helps in the real estate business primarily. But when you see those cool drone videos of a new house that's for sale, and then the great work that shows the inside of a home that you're interested in, someone like Sam is the person who has done that. It's not some Joe Blow on his cell phone trying to do this thing. It's an actual professional who has honed his craft. But that's not the whole story. You see, during the course of our conversation, Sam told me that he had only been doing it for a few years because he had actually started his life in a different career. And right around 2022 timeframe, he decided to make a major shift and a major pivot in his life. So Sam, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on Keep This in Mind, but I would really like to hear the story, right? When I decided what I wanted to be when I grow up was this one thing, but then you found another love and decided to pivot to that. Could you tell all of us, myself included, and refresh my memory on what
Sure.
did that look like? Where did you go from this is what I'm doing now to not wanting to do it anymore to doing what you really do now?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, David. I've been following you even before we met at that event, and just the mindset perspective that you bring is really cool. It's kind of helped me along even before we met. So I appreciate that. But it's weird how it all works. And I was actually telling this story to someone this morning. I've been doing this media thing for about 2 years, a little longer. And I was in the education world, primarily teaching math, kind of taught a couple different subjects along the way. And, even before I made the jump into education, I said, I'm not doing this forever. I don't know what it'll be, but, my math background, numbers related. So it was something along with business. I didn't know if that was going to be owning my own or helping other people, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I ventured into the media world, and the plan was actually to go part-time with it. And, I had that safety net still of the education, guaranteed paycheck, whatever you want to call it, 2 young kids, a wife. And so that was all fresh in my, perspective to put food on the table and provide for my family. So it was like, well, maybe I could just have this side gig and see what happens. So I'm a loyal person as it is. So I actually started in March, finished the school year because I wasn't going to, quit, a few months left in the school year. And then, like you said, I got to a point to where I said, if I'm going to do this, I need to give it a fair shot. And, making that jump was very scary, for the human mind. I think all of us like some sort of safety or comfort zone. But, it was like, if I'm going to give this a fair shot, then I need to give it a fair shot and see what happens. And so I resigned in the education space and went full time with it about this time 2 years ago. And, it's been a great experience so far, and just helping people showcase their homes, like you said, primarily in real estate, has been really neat.
So I want to kind of turn the clock back just a hair because
Sure.
math teacher and photography slash media are like diametrically opposed. It's like you're using
Right.
both sides of your brain here. You were like using one side for one part of a career, and now you're over on this other side. Has the Do you treat what you do as more of an art or a science when it comes to the actual vocation of media?
Uh, so interesting question. Can I say both? I know you gave me
Absolutely.
options, but it is funny because I mean, yes, I take photos and there's an art to it and understanding composition and having an eye and placing things and all of that. You know, from the science perspective, I mean, you could go math, you go get the right angles and all that stuff. But I think one thing, in having conversation with a couple people that I try to keep in mind is I use my education background to help, again, primarily real estate agents repurpose content or, it's a weird perspective because yes, you want to sell this home that I'm taking pictures of today, but how do we use this to win future listings or how do we gain more business based on the content that we already have? So I would say probably more of a science to it because I'm educating them in that world of yes, let's sell this one, but let's springboard it into multiple business down the road. And here are some ways that we can do that. And it's funny because I do it every day. And the more conversations I have, the more I realize people don't know what I know.
Mm.
And so I need to quit jumping to conclusions thinking that, yeah, you just post it on social media and do this, that, or the other. You know what I'm talking about. And then, funny story, I said that one time. And then 5 minutes later, I realized they didn't know what I was talking about.
Mm.
But they don't do it every day like I do. And I don't sell homes every day like they do. So it was a good partnership. And that's kind of the view that I take. I mean, yeah, I'm a vendor, but I'm an extension of their team.
Yes.
And like I said at the beginning, I'm loyal. So once I build that relationship, they know that they can count on me. I'll fit them in if I can, and I'll make it work any way that I can.
That is awesome. I mean, really and truly, that's the way we all want it to be, right? That whoever we partner up with financially, vocationally, whatever, acts like that they're part of who we are, and that our goals are is equally important to them as their goals are.
Sure.
One of the things I've got a question for, and I'm going to try to word it just right, but as you were you said something real early that just really struck with me. And he's like, you said, I went into education knowing this wasn't where I was going to stay forever. Can you speak to that mindset? Because so many people, I think, get trapped. They get trapped in whatever it was they came out of college for. Oh, I've got a mountain of debt over here for a degree, but I really don't love what I'm doing. And I don't know that it, talk about how you got okay with the idea that this wasn't forever.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's not to use the same phrase, but it's funny you mentioned that because I had that conversation with my mother-in-law earlier, honestly. And I mean, the school system was great, and it wasn't anything against that, but it was really just I knew, kind of going from my childhood to now being a dad and a husband, and providing for the family, like I mentioned earlier, it comes down to flexibility and scalability for me. And again, nothing against the school system, but now that my kids are getting older and they're more involved, and my son will start kindergarten this fall, like I want to have the option to volunteer for field day, or I want to have the option to go on a field trip, or things like that. And not that I didn't have that option, it just became more difficult to kind of take off. And now that I made that jump and I control my own schedule, I have that flexibility. Um, so that's the thing, when, and you and I talked before, it's, people kind of flirt with the line of making the jump like I did. Um, you got to figure out what's your purpose and the mindset of why you would want to make the jump and not get strapped, because especially in the education world, and probably in a lot of different industries, you hear people all the time say, well, I got 22 years in, I got to get to 25 or 30, so I might as well stick it out. And honestly, I heard that so much that was another contributing factor of, I'm not going to let myself get to that point of being miserable, because then it affects me, but it affects my wife, my kids, the people around me. From a day-to-day operation standpoint, if you're negative, then you're breeding negativity. And so it just got to a point to where I was like, I got to make this jump. And if it fails, it fails. And I'll pivot and I'll go do something else. But I've got to at least give it a fair shot, like I said earlier, to really, see what's going to happen, and let that mindset of, I want the flexibility to spend more time with my kids. And I want the scalability to where if I'm a driven person who works hard, I get to control that and I get rewarded for it. If I want to take off and go to the beach, then that's a sacrifice that I make as well. I don't necessarily have that safety net of income because I took off, but I wanted to be able to control those two factors of scalability and flexibility.
That's good. And I like how you've balanced it, right? You're like, I am in control. I'm flexible, but I'm not optional. I'm able to do, but I know that there's a cost involved. If I go to the beach, then those are days that I can't work, but I can work extra over here. Or so when somebody goes to make a pivot like this, a major move in their life, and you know, I don't know your age, but you're not you're not advanced in your age. But I would say that there was probably you had those that supported you and those that detracted. Those that thought you were on the right path, and man, they were just super proud that you were willing to take this risk. And there were probably others that were just like, you're nuts. Well, I don't know why you're doing this. I mean, really, real estate photography, you're really going to make a living out of that? I mean, kind of talk about what it was like, the outside voices, and how you were able to keep your inside voice committed to the decision you were making.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, and I tell everybody, it's the flexibility and scalability. Not to use the same answer for a different question, but yes, we have to make money, and I have to provide, and I have, buy things for my kids and take them on trips and whatever. But for me, the flexibility of getting to spend time with them is worth way more than me going to take pictures or do a video or fly the drone or whatever the case may be. And so honestly, that's the forefront of my mindset every day. And I have those conversations with my kids, and I'm open and honest and transparent with them. And they're 5, and my daughter will be 7 soon. To where it's like we're leaving for the beach, and I'm actually flying back early because I haven't built the business enough to have a team yet. So I'm flying back, and they're staying at the beach. So that's a sacrifice, but it's a trade-off. And I jokingly say, like, yeah, daddy's got to come back so that he can work, so that he can pay for y'all to stay at the beach. Yeah, obviously joking, but it's that mindset of, or to steal the phrase, work hard, play hard.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to go spend time with my family, but I'm also going to sacrifice time away from my family, knowing bigger picture, what's down the road. And, I mean, if you had asked me 5 years ago, are you going to take pictures? Like you said, math and photos don't usually correlate. I don't know what 5 years from now looks like, but I'm working now to set myself up to diversify, and surround myself with people And it's funny, when you first asked this question, one of the things that came to mind was, how do you keep the people in your circle and, the haters necessarily, out of your circle. And it's crazy just thinking back in just a small window of time, how seasons of life change. And, people that you're really close to, that you think are there, and come more like family than friends. And, now they're not in your life and you have a different circle that you're running with, and, they're impacting you in a different way. And so that's kind of what comes to mind when you first ask that, is just the mindset of constantly knowing the direction that I want to go for me and my family specifically, not even business, but just big picture of having more flexibility, or growing a team and impacting other people, because of the opportunities that I might provide through the media world, or whatever the future may hold.
So let's go back 2 years. You've made the decision, you're
Okay.
going full time. Did you ever hit moments of doubt after you made the decision? Like, what was I thinking? Or did it everything kind of fall into place for you?
I mean, we're 2 years in, and I still have moments of doubt sometimes. I mean, that's part of being a business owner, right? Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, no. Which is really weird to say looking back. You know, I made the jump in June, and late June. So, like I said, around this time, going full time with it, and it was like, okay, you got to make this work. Um, but it was, I coach athletically, which is kind of how I got in the education world. And, we did like a summer basketball camp. I took pictures of a house, so I made some money, and I took my kids to swim lessons all in a day. And so it was, honestly, it was at that moment where it was like, I did something I'm passionate about. I still provided for my family, and I got to spend time with my kids. We can make this work. And so it was that moment where I realized, okay, if I can do all of this in a day and meet those benchmarks, if you will, it really erased any doubt that there possibly could have been. And I mean, like I said, some days are better than others, and it's a roller coaster, and but it's you know not to well, maybe pun intended, keeping this in mind of, it's the people that you surround yourself with and the relationships that you build, that not necessarily springboard you, but just feed positivity in, and you get positivity out, to use a math term, kind of a function, nerdy an analogy there. So yeah, I mean, there was no doubt, because like I said, I realized we can do this, we can make it work. And I, give credit to my wife. She's been supportive and helping me navigate through this.
If I was to take everything that we've talked about so far, and there was a recurring theme, and that is you figured out what was important to you. And I'll be honest with you, Sam, when I came into this, I thought you were going to say something like, the first time I ever flew a drone and took a video, man, I was hooked, and this is what I wanted to do. But your why was, I want to be able to be flexible enough to be fully present with my family, fully present, fully able to do the things that I want to do. And that, for me, listening to you, that's been like the overarching, theme of this. You found your why. And your why doesn't have to be my why, and our why doesn't have to be somebody else's why. So once you found that, it seems to me that it made everything more clear to you. Like
Sure.
and I think probably that is one of the most important things that people could take away, is that if you get crystal clear on what's important to you, all the other stuff you can navigate. And so as we begin to wrap things up here, I want you to kind of, and I know you don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years. We none of us really do. But if you could, venture out a few years down the road, what does what does all of this culminate to for Sam? How does it look for you? You're in the scaling portion of your business, right? You've gotten off the ground, you've gotten established, you kind of know the routines now, you kind of know all the crap that you got to deal with as a business owner. Now you're in the scaling moment. What does it look like when you say, "Man, I think I've made it"? What does that look like as far as your scheduling, as far so that somebody else could maybe catch the vision of what's possible?
Right. Yeah. Great question, because that's kind of been the forefront of my mind, since I launched. And it's one of those where I think about it, and I've toyed with the idea of, do I bring someone on? Do I hire someone? Do I need help? No, not really. And then things slow down. Do I bring someone on? Do I hire? And I go back and forth with that because it's seasonal and things fluctuate and whatever. But I think my ultimate goal, and I've told people, like, I'm not looking to take over Middle Tennessee and be the real estate photographer. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Now if that comes to fruition, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I do see, the possibility of growing. Like you said, I'm in the scaling factor, and I at some point, there's only so many hours in a day. I can only take so many so many pictures.
Right.
And so I'm going to need help, whether that's another photographer or a salesperson or a marketing person or an admin or all of the above or whatever. Um, I think about that, though, because, like I kind of alluded to earlier, it provides opportunities for other people. And so, like you said, yeah, I've discovered my why, and I'm really zoned in on that every day. But I want to help other people kind of see where they can go in life, and it may not be for them, and they may, like I said earlier, people come and go in seasons of life. And so maybe, I bring someone on and they help me for 2 years and then they move on. If I can help springboard people to get to where they want to go, I think that's part of my why too. Is just impacting others. And I think that comes from an educational background of just showing what's possible. Whether you think you're going to do something or not, if you put your mind to it and figure out the big picture, things are possible.
With that, I think that probably says it all right there. If you put your mind to it, things are possible. So, Sam, I know the podcast, it gets listened to all over. So, we're kind of location sensitive here in Middle Tennessee. But if people want to go deeper with you, if they want to follow you, I mean, yeah, you do the photography and the physical work, but like you said earlier, you're also a social media a consultant, and so there's a whole lot more to what you do than just photography. So, if people want to go deeper with you, what's a good way for them to do that? How can they follow you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook primarily. Sam Gorden, Gorden, though, which is story of my life because everybody wants to spell it with an O. And then my Instagram, is shoot with Sam because I take pictures. Um, and I mean, like you said, we are kind of location specific, but again, with my educational background, I'd love to hop on a call with someone to see if I could help, repurpose, even if they're in another state, because you don't know what you don't know, that's so cliche. But as I've gone through conversations with multiple people, I realize there's a lot more to it that I can provide that education, and help them grow their business, and in return grow mine. So,
Well, Sam, thank you so much for being on the show today. There's a lot to unpack here, folks. I encourage you to go back and listen to it again. When you know what matters, and when you can clearly focus in on that, and then you believe that you can, like Sam says, you can figure out the rest. You can make it work. And I love what you said. I hate to, I feel like I'm wrapping it up, but I'm going back to a little point here because I want people to grasp this. Your circle may change as your seasons change, and that's okay. Because a lot of times the people that you're with now that got you here are not going to be the people that help get you there. And I have seen this in my lifetime. My wife and I have made jokes about people that are quote unquote seasonal friends, because you end up moving or growing or something happens. But the truth of the matter is that in order to have the right mindset through all of those different seasons, you have to get okay that your why overshadows all of the other things. And so, Sam,
absolutely.
I want to thank you for bringing that to light, helping us see that. And you've imparted some serious knowledge, my friend. I appreciate it. But I'm going to round it out like I round out every episode, and that is this, because knowledge is one thing, but unless you're taking action, it's really you're just becoming a bloated vessel of knowledge. So it's not knowledge that's power; it's applied knowledge that's power. That is going to do it for this episode of Keep This in Mind. For more, visit davidaspecht.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Thank you for listening, and remember, applied knowledge is power. God bless.